Movement. At least 4 different types of movement modes exist. Walking, running, jumping, and standing still. But all 4 of these movement modes generally work the same way. So let's learn how to move generally, and then we'll get into each one of these movement modes in particular. Okay, here we have our supernova. And battle mechs move forward and they move backward. Bipedal battle mechs cannot side strafe, meaning they cannot move here, nor here, nor here, nor here. They must move forward or backward. So in order to change direction, a battle mech must change hexside and then move on. Like so. Now, here we have nothing but clear terrain. To move into a new hex always costs at least 1 movement point, or MP. And clear terrain only costs 1 MP to get into. So the supernova must expend MP to move about, like so. 1, 2, 3. The supernova expended 3 MP to move 3 hexes. But changing hexside also costs 1 MP per hexside changed. For example, 1, 2, 3. The supernova expended 3 MP, yet only moved 2 hexes. 1, 2, because it had to pay 1 MP for the hexside change. Also note, if the supernova wanted to do an about face, it would cost 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And that's how movement works, generally. We now see a battle mech record sheet of a supernova. Let's turn our attention to a very particular section of this sheet, which is right here. Here we have the number of movement points this mech has for each of 3 of the movement types. So here we see the walking has 3 movement points, and what that means is if you move equal to or less than 3 movement points, you are walking. And you don't actually have to move any hexes, you just have to expend the 3 movement points. So you can change hexside 3 times and not move, and you're still walking. The same thing goes for running. If you expend more than 3 movement points, but equal to or less than 5 movement points, your mech is running. So if you change hexside 5 times, you're still running even though you didn't move any hexes. Yeah. Jumping, all you have to do is declare that you're jumping. So if you're jumping, and you can jump expending up to 3 movement points. And that's how this supernova works. But this is just one mech. There are many mechs. This one, you'll see, has different movement rates because it has different amounts of MP. Its walking MP is 4, its running MP is 6, its jumping 0. And that's all I want us to see from the mech sheet right now. As in real life, the faster you move, the harder it is to successfully shoot your target. But conversely, the faster you move, the harder it is for your opponent to successfully shoot you. And of course, the slower you move, the easier it is for everyone to shoot everything. To simulate this, BattleTech assigns modifiers to your mech depending on the movement type you used. So whether you walked, ran, jumped, or stood still, you will get different modifiers. Let's get into that, shall we? After we move our battle mech, we customarily place a die next to it to indicate to everyone at the table which movement mode that battle mech is using. The battle mech manual recommends we place a white die next to a unit, a black die next to a unit that is running, red for jumping, and a die of any color with 6 pips up for a mech that is standing still. Notice how these dice are of a different size than the dice we roll. We do not roll these dice. They are used purely as counters. Let's illustrate. So let's say our supernova walked. 1, 2, 3. We take the white die, place it next to the supernova. Now everyone knows that this supernova walked. Accordingly, this supernova's target number modifier as an attacker is +1, meaning that this mech will have a +1 harder time to shoot things. As for running, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we put the black die next to it. Everyone at the table knows that this mech is running and will have a target number modifier as an attacker of +2. The mech has a +2 harder time to successfully shoot things. Jumping, 1, 2, 3. Place the red die next to it. Everyone knows it's jumping. And its target number modifier as an attacker is +3. If a mech stands still, place a die next to it with 6 pips up. And everyone knows that mech is standing still. And that mech has a target number modifier as an attacker of +0. It's +0 harder for this mech to successfully shoot things. Notice how the more movement the mech does, the harder it is for the mech to successfully shoot things. You notice that these dice all have pips on them. Pips are the number of little dots on each side. These pips represent something important, and the number of pips you put up are determined by a table. Let's turn to that table now. Behold the attack modifiers table in all of its glory. So, if you'll notice, right here, we have what we already went over with the walked, ran, jumped, stationary thing and those modifiers. And then if we scroll down a bit, this right here is how we determine the number of pips we put up on the die. If you recall, my supernova walked 3 hexes, so it had a +1 standing up on the die. That means that its target number modifier as a target is +1. So the mech is +1 harder to hit. Think of the target modifier as a defense modifier. And my battle mech ran 5 hexes, so it got a +2. And remember, this is based off of the hexes moved, not the MP spent. And with jumping, you follow the same stuff, but you get an additional +1. Also, bear in mind that this modifiers table, it's got a few forms. For example, this table is from the BattleTech manual, but the table is also in Total Warfare, right here. We can zoom in. Woo, where are we? Oh, here we go. Yeah, tech modifiers table. It's the same table. It's just blue. Abu di Abu Dai. We got the stationary walked, ran, jump there, and then we got the number of pips we put on the die there. It's all cool. There's also, if you bought the BattleTech box, a nice cardboard cutout sort of page with a bunch of tables on it, and it's black and white and great, and why don't I just show you that now? Here lies the great and glorious BattleTech cheat sheet. It has all the tables we need to play the game. The attack modifiers table, and so on. If I ever seem to pull a number out of thin air in this series, that number came from this sheet. It's on a nice, hard, sort of cardboardy paper. You can get it from the Game of Armored Combat box. And of course, it has a backside with even more tables. If you can cheat on a math test, you can play BattleTech. You can get that fancy cheat sheet from this box. To end, we just learned how movement through clear terrain works. But other types of terrain exist, like woods, water, and level changes. In another video, I will go over how movement through those types of terrain work using my fancy 3D printed terrain, because it's cool.